Hey, what's up, YouTube? Red and Bordy here. Today, in light of Mo2Go, which we will get back to, but leading up to launch, we wanted to give you guys a new series about New World since we're about 3 months out, and we are going to do a lore series. So every Friday, instead of Mo2Go for the foreseeable future, you'll be getting a new episode of lore from New World and Aeternum, Bordy.
Yes, I'm excited about this one, dude. This is going to be a lot of fun to start digging into the lore, something we've wanted to do for a while, and so I'm glad we're finally making it happen, man. It's going to be a good time.
I'm stoked, and the one we have today, I mean, dude, it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about, a lot of speculation here because there's a lot of cool information that you know, is going to break down a lot of the ancients' technology and what might be going on there, because that's one of the most interesting things in my mind. Are what are the ancients and that technology that they discovered? Is that the source of Azoth and eternal life and all those things? And I think we're going to get a little bit of insight into it with this lore. Now, this lore, these pages are all on New World Fans. So the map that we're using and the lore pages that we're using, you can find over there if you're interested and you want to read them for yourselves, maybe after the video, or maybe you can follow along with the video as we read them, you know, and move along. But we are going to first start with the Stevens Expedition. So I'm going to read the first page, Bordy. It's titled Day 1, and then we'll kind of break down all of the stuff that they're talking about, try to give you guys some insight there, and continue on. All right, so the first page obviously is found near Orion. It specifies that. Now, to set this up, and this is something that we found pretty interesting in the preview event, the Shattered Obelisk is something everybody's familiar with. They, you know, let me pop up a screenshot for you guys. Now, the Shattered Obelisk, if you haven't seen it before, which I think most people that played the preview event had, is this structure here, and it is located, I believe, in the Everfall territory, right, Bordy?
Yeah, that's right.
So they're referring to when they refer to the Shattered Obelisk, this is what they're referring to within this screenshot here, and for reference, well, let's read this page first because I think it provides a lot of insight. And then this is the Shattered Obelisk, and here is the settlement from Everfall. And again, we're on the map on New World Fans if you guys want to follow along there. And you can kind of toggle all the different nodes off if you want to, or just select these. You'll figure it out. You know how to use the map. So, all right. So day 1, here we go, Bordy. Day 1 is today we journeyed out from the settlement of Everfall to uncover all we can about these beguiling obelisks. I, Roger Henry Stevens, lead this expedition and am accompanied by 2 strong associates, Walter McKay and Elias Anders. As leader, I assign myself to the task of documenting our journey for posterity, as well as recording all scientific measurements and observations to be gained from this endeavor. As draft animals are difficult to come by, LOL, no maps or no mounts yet in New World, so obviously no trailers or mounts that can haul wagons and stuff like that. Our expedition is lightly equipped, bearing only what we may carry on our backs. Our goal is to complete a circumference of the outer obelisks, and if successful, gather a full expedition to penetrate ruins and to make a true inspection of the central obelisk. And then again, that is referring to the Shattered Obelisk that we showed you a picture of. Our one planned detour is to be made to the Windward settlement for resupply and respite. I plan to spend a few days at each obelisk, taking measurements and gathering plant and stone samples from each location to determine what, if any, differences are present at each. Our first destination is the Orion Obelisk, where the journey begins. All right, so Bordy, there's a lot to dive into here. Obviously, if you remember, and you can go look at the map on New World Fans, Everfall and Windward are touching each other. The northern border of Windward and the southern border of Everfall touch, and that is where you will find this circle of obelisks. Now, like we read in the first note, Bordy, They are named with constellation names.
Yeah, they are, man. Which I don't know what that has to do with them yet, but it is interesting that all of the obelisks are named after constellations. So we'll see how that ties into everything, man. It's also really interesting how all of these are in a circle around the main Shattered Obelisk. So you have all of these small obelisks, and if you guys didn't notice from the preview event, whenever you jump back into the game, look at the Shattered Obelisk there in Everfall, and then look around it. There is a circle of smaller obelisks that go all the way around Everfall. So that's what they're talking about here in this lore page, is that they're going from obelisk to obelisk to figure out what they are and how they're, I guess, powering the Shattered Obelisk, because there's some sort of energy coming out of the middle of the Shattered Obelisk. So what do you think there, dude? Do you think that some of these smaller obelisks are powering the Shattered Obelisk, because they're all kind of facing inward towards the middle one?
Right.
So what do you think is going on there with these things, man?
I have no idea, but I want to show. Here's a screenshot of these inward facing obelisks that they're speaking of, that have the names of constellations. Obviously, Orion's the first one he mentioned. So here it is, and you can tell like they kind of circle around, and there's 16 in total, and you can kind of see them facing inward each in a sphere, which, you know, there are tons of spheres all over Aeternum, Bordy. As you explore, you see all these spheres laying on the ground. You see spheres in all of the ancient temples and technologies. So it's going to be interesting to see what that sphere is and what it means. But here they are, all facing inward towards, again, what we know to be the Shattered Obelisk, which is in the center. Bordy?
Yeah, it looks like the sphere is some sort of power source, because if you've noticed too, going through in the preview, you would see smaller structures that look similar to this with a line like going right up the middle of the stone, and sometimes that line was lit up. It was glowing and lit up like some kind of energy was going through there. So I would fully imagine that's what this is that we're seeing here in these screenshots, or in this screenshot. The line going up to the sphere is some sort of energy that goes up through there and then gives you some sort of energy in the sphere. So it's obviously some kind of ancient technology that we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
And
though.
Here on the screen right now is kind of a picture of that. It shows him worshiping, this six-handed or four-armed, ancient-looking person, potentially Egyptian-looking person that has a sphere holding it up, kind of in worship or whatever you want to call it, praising this sphere or something like that. So again, very interesting stuff, Bordy. Let me see. I have one more screenshot for you that I want to look at real quick, because I want to reference the glowing here. So here is what Bordy's talking about: an ancient temple with the sphere actually glowing. Like the middle of the Shattered Obelisk. So again, very interesting how they circle around this obelisk in the middle that now has exploded, kind of suspending parts in time, which I think is another cool thing that we'll kind of mention maybe at the end of the episode here. So Bordy, why don't you go ahead and take it away with the next page of lore?
All right, so this is page 2 out of the Stevens Expedition, and this page is called Days 19 and 20. So this page is found near the Octans Obelisk. So the page reads, arrived at Octans today. No issues of note during the travel from Hydrus. Earlier, settlers established a fortified structure nearby where we've set up camp. A pleasant change from these past weeks, having a roof over our head. I shall have to speak with McKay and Anders and ensure we do not relax our guard even during their respite. I am confident that my idea of leaving collected samples at staged locations is the correct one, given our limited carrying space. But to note, samples have been stored at the Hydrus Obelisk, while the first bundle of notes were stored at the Draco Obelisk. We will collect these upon our return. I find that pretty interesting, that little note there, and I wonder if in-game you can find some of these things at those obelisks. So then it says, structure is almost identical to others found on previous expeditions, save some environmental weathering. This morning, McKay tied off a rope and climbed to the observation platform with nothing to show for it but a nice view. Stones appeared to have been shaped with little or no use of tools. They may have been magically crafted. We will continue to investigate this area, but plan to move on to Delphinus soon. And then the next page after that is called Day 21. This is the third page out of the Stevens expedition. This page is found near Delphinus. So Delphinus is much the same as Octans, with no nearby threats and travelers passing nearby with ease. It's odd. Earlier obelisks in this expedition, Hydrus, Draco, and Orion, housed a number of guardians that did their best to prevent us from investigating the sites, yet these two seem to be uninhabited. No damage is apparent, no major alteration in construction, though neither has easy access to the upper balcony. Is there something on that level which attracts the Guardians? I shall convince McKay to scale the side of the platform to inspect the area further. We shall continue our endeavor, and with luck, we'll find a clue to help us unlock the mysteries of these obelisks. Yo, this stuff's pretty crazy, man. It's starting to get pretty interesting here, because now we have, they're investigating these obelisks. So I think a couple of things that are important to note here is that some of the obelisks are guarded by some of the ancients, and then obviously these two that they went to are not. So Octans and Delphinus, they do not have any ancients there guarding these obelisks. So why is that? Like, why would that be? Maybe there's some maybe it's a geographical thing, some area on the map. Maybe they're further away from the Shattered Obelisk, or maybe they're close to another landmark that is pushing them away from there. Or maybe those obelisks maybe their energy source is broken, and so they don't have any draw to pull ancients over to them. It's pretty interesting. I'm not sure why.
Right, and I think, or maybe we'll find out. Maybe not in this piece of lore, but later on, once we find out the true identity or what exactly the Shattered Obelisk is, I think. But it is interesting that some are being guarded and some aren't. I think from the preview event, if they haven't changed anything, all of them are in a perfect circle around the Shattered Obelisk. So we'll see. We'll see maybe during whatever process happened to shatter the middle obelisk, maybe some of them did break, like their power source is no longer working, and who knows, maybe as wardens, soul wardens now, Bordy, will restore the power to some of those broken obelisks. That'd be kind of cool, or a cool quest line, I think. Yeah,
it would be. There's also, also importance here is that it says the stones appear to have been shaped with little or no use of tools, so they may have been magically crafted. So somehow the ancients magically crafted these stones that appear that we've seen on those obelisks. The round stones and the obelisks themselves, they crafted them. I don't know how they're doing it. I want to know more about the ancients, and this leaves a lot to be desired here, but it is interesting to dig into this, and now we're getting a little bit of insight as to kind of how these things were constructed and what they're for. So I think that's really, really cool, man. So yeah, you want to take on the last page here?
Yeah. So this is the last page. It is found near Cygnus, and again, all of these we looked them up. All of them are constellation names. I don't think the names are significant. Maybe they're centered around, like, I know that the Earth's rotation, maybe they're, kind of ordered in a way that you would see the constellations as the Earth rotates. Potentially, I'm not an astrologist by any means. So you can go look these names up. A lot of them, obviously Orion, you're probably familiar with, but they're all constellation names. So here's the last piece of lore. Day 26 is the title. We have finally established a camp near Cygnus. Though it has not been easy, perhaps we should have turned south towards the Windward settlement to resupply and raise a larger company before continuing. The Guardians here seem different somehow. Perhaps it is the proximity to the nearby ruins which makes them more aggressive. Though I myself am not a great fighter, I have given Anders the night to rest. I shall take the watch with McKay. A few days have passed, but we long for the relative safely of Delphinus again. So he's referring to one of the other obelisks being safer or easier to rest by. So a smear of blood obscures much of the text, but it continues in a different hand near the bottom. So this kind of specifies, Bordy, that the writer has changed here, and obviously things have went south because there's blood all over this note. So here we go. Steven is dead. McKay is dead. So that means that Anders is the one speaking. I'm likely next. I don't know why they aren't coming back to life. Not like we haven't all died once or twice or thrice before. Maybe we each have an allotment of lives, like cats. Maybe it has something to do with these obelisks. Whatever the case, the team is gone and I'm trapped here. Whoever finds this, please and then it goes into ellipses like the writer has passed away or something has happened to the writer. Bordy, I mean, obviously he was pretty accurate to say Anders was the best fighter because he ended up being the only one alive towards the end of the thing. But I mean, he wasn't good enough to make it out, apparently.
Yeah. Seems like they all died. Yeah, yeah, we don't know. I would assume he died based on the way this ended. It seems like they all died. But there's a couple of really interesting parts here, man. It says, not like we haven't all died once, twice, or thrice before.
Right.
So we know on Aeternum you get eternal life whenever you go there and you don't ever truly die. So I guess that's what they're referencing there, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what he means because obviously, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I died a couple times in the preview event, So then why it says I don't know why they aren't coming back to life. So then why wouldn't they come back to life in this situation? Is it because they're too close to the Shattered Obelisk? Is there something weird happening with the obelisk they're at? Like what's happening there? It has to be tied in somehow because if they've died in other places, they come here and then they die. The energy here somehow isn't allowing them to come back to life, which I found pretty interesting too. It leaves it at that. We don't know why they didn't come back to life, but this answers a few things, but it also brings up a ton of questions. Right.
You know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all know Azoth is what kind of brings us back to life on Aeternum. And you know, I will say that light blue glow seems to be synonymous with Azoth. And as we kind of see in the picture that we have of the Shattered Obelisk here, that seems to be obelisk related, you know, or excuse me, Azoth related. So maybe, you know, these obelisks surrounding these Shattered Obelisks have some sort of ability to suck or channel the Azoth out of Aeternum and direct it towards places of, you know, like these Shattered Obelisks. So who knows what they were attempting to do here, but I think because of the nature of the Shattered Obelisk and it clearly was hit in the middle from all directions and has created some sort of time-defying vortex or at least gravity-defying vortex because all those shattered parts hovering around the middle. And it seems like, I mean, I would think that most of the middle of that obelisk is destroyed, yet it still stands, Bordy.
Yeah, it's I don't know what to make of all this, to be honest with you. I don't know what that is and why it's suspended in time like that. That's I don't know. Like, why is it suspended in time, and how is that going to play into the story? Because it obviously is intentional and somehow plays into the story, I would imagine. So we don't know, man. Well, hopefully we'll find out more whenever we start digging into the lore a little bit more. Hopefully some of these other lore notes answer that question. But one thing also, like in the second journal entry we read here, days 19 and 20 is the title of it, the one found near Octans. This is why I found this little part. I said it was interesting earlier, and I want to kind of go back to it because it says, to note, samples have been stored at the Hydrus obelisk while the first bundle of notes were stored at the Draco obelisk, and they'll collect these upon their return. Well, they didn't return. They died. So yeah. I want to go back to I want to go to those places in game and see if there's something there, right? Like, are there other lore pages there? Is there, what's there? Is anything
that would
there?
Be cool.
Maybe nothing's there.
Yeah.
It would be cool if they put something there, some kind of sample or something there.
Maybe a different set of lore pages that help us figure out what, more about what their observations were of these obelisks. So I think that would be really cool too.
Yeah, maybe a clue within these lore pages to go find more lore. I don't know. But I found that part pretty interesting because then they did die, so they didn't go back and collect them. So hopefully they left something for us there in game. But there's a lot to digest here, man. This is a very fun and interesting read for sure. And it leaves me asking a lot more questions.
Yes, sir. And hopefully those questions will be answered when the game comes out. We'll get some more lore, more attempts to explore all this stuff. But we hope you guys enjoyed the lore episode. This is our first ever one, so you'll let us know in the comments below what you thought. maybe, you know, if you go over to New World Fans and look at all of our lore, again, you just go to the database and you can select lore pages or lore items, and you can kind of look through this lore, the Stevens Expedition, as well as other lore. Maybe you can tell us what you want to see in upcoming episodes. Want to hear our you know, viewpoint or our thoughts on each of these lore stories, man. This episode's been a ton of fun, Bordy. I'm glad that we're starting this because I think it'll broaden our knowledge of the world of Aeternum, but hopefully our viewers as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscription button, the notification bell for more New World content like this. We post videos here Monday through Friday, every day, Central Standard Time at 8 a.m. So you can expect those videos 5 days a week. Again, guys, thanks for joining us here on our first ever lore episode, and we'll see you in the next one.